after he died, I couldn't pray. Like I didn't know what to say. And my attitude was kind of like, you're going to do what you want to anyways. Why do I need to say anything? Like, that's kind of what it is. But I was also like, hey, God, I'm here. Like, I'm here. I just want you to know I'm here.
Hey sis, can I speak to the woman who's tired of second guessing herself? Maybe you feel like something's missing, but you're not sure what. You're stuck in a cycle of striving for more, but never feeling like you actually get there. I have been in your shoes. If you're feeling stuck, overwhelmed, or like something's missing in your walk with God or even your purpose, I've got you. Whether it's fear of the future, confusion over your calling, or just not feeling good enough, we'll work through it together. Did you know that if God's done it for someone else, He can do it for you too? Let's break free from comparison and self-doubt and dive into all the abundance that God has for you. Hop on to a free 15-minute peace and purpose chat. We'll talk calling, clarity, and confidence to help you get unstuck and moving forward. I want to pray boldly over you. Or even better, what I've got for you, yes, you, the woman who's done playing small, done getting in your own way, done feeling held back, inadequate, or making yourself small in order to fit in other people's lives. Girl, you, who's ready to reclaim peace and purpose. The full one-to-one confidence coaching session is where you need to go. Let's uncover the root of what's holding you back and help you boldly step into what God has for you. You don't have to stay stagnant. There is more for you, and you don't have to go it alone. We can get there together. Pause right here, scroll to the show notes, and click the link. I can't wait to see you face to face. Welcome to the Called and Courageous Christian Woman, the podcast where we have meaningful conversation rooted in truth as told by Scripture and learn actionable steps to pursue a peace-filled, purpose-driven, unapologetically courageous life. I'm Britton George, and each week I'll be bringing you powerful conversations, inspiring stories, and biblical wisdom to help you embrace your divine purpose, stand boldly in your faith, and live a kingdom-building life that reflects the courage and strength God has instilled in you. If you're ready to be empowered, uplifted, and encouraged as you pursue the life you were created for, then you're in the right place. Let's dive in, friend. Hello, ladies, and welcome back. Today, we're talking with JoBeth Evans.
You did it.
Yay, here we are. Look at us. All right. You've tuned into the right episode because this is going to be a powerful one. We've been talking about gratitude, and remaining grateful can be hard enough. But what about keeping a spirit of thankfulness and praise when life deals us a profound loss? When those hard things are happening to us, not by our own choices or actions or decisions, but when the world deals us devastation. How do we avoid getting rooted and even maybe stuck in anger or resentment, and maybe even anger, resentment towards God during and following these seasons? JoBeth is a certified grief recovery specialist, speaker, and coach who helps people navigate the heartache of loss with honesty, hope, and faith. After being widowed at 33, she left her career in higher education to walk alongside others in their grief journeys. She brings a powerful blend of lived experience, professional training, and deep compassion to her work. JoBeth is passionate about helping people find healing, rediscover purpose, and experience the goodness of God, even in the middle of their pain. Guys, I know this testimony is going to rock you. It's going to touch you deeply. And for some of you, maybe even give you hope and begin healing in a way you haven't been able to achieve due to your own devastating circumstances and seasons. So JoBeth, I just want to say thank you so much for being here. Truly, I know you're going to bless my listeners, and I'm so excited to have this conversation with you.
Thank you. I'm excited too. And thanks for having me and seeing value in my story and what I have to share.
Yeah, absolutely. So I know I just gave you a little bit of an intro, but is there anything you want to add to that, or do you just want to jump right in?
Yeah, I mean, we can jump right in, but I just, anytime I get the opportunity, I just, always want to be a voice of hope and an example of what's possible to people. And so, like, if you're listening today and you've tuned in and maybe you've lost that hope, I just want you to stay with us, stay tuned in, because hopefully by the end you're gonna maybe feel inspired, maybe even have a little bit of an identity shift. And so I'm excited for the opportunity to sit with all of you guys today and just pour my heart out, and hopefully things resonate and have meaning for each of you.
I love that. And I appreciate that so much because there's so much vulnerability in that. Um, and I know we talked a little bit previously, but after you've come out of your circumstance or, you're still dealing with the waves of it, but you're not right in it anymore. I really think God uses us then to help other people that are in it. In my circumstances and kind of what I went through, I know that was one thing that was missing for me was community and somebody who like got it and understood what I was going through. So I just think it's really beautiful that you're using your testimony to help other people that are now also maybe in the same or similar shoes. So with that, let's kind of just get into it. So I just want to talk about maybe give us a little bit of your background, share as much as you're willing to about kind of your story and what that loss was like, and just how you walked through that and the highs and lows of kind of that valley season.
Yeah, so there was really three different parts of this grief journey. So there was um if you've heard me talk before, you've like there was like things were really good in our life. We had just adopted our kids a few years prior. We felt very complete as a family. Things felt very good. We bought a farm that was like a dream of ours. And then we built our dream house on this farm. And it was just like, it was almost one of those times it was like, man, this feels too good to be true almost. Like we got everything. Like I was driving a brand new car, like we had a brand new house, like I was homeschooling our kids and working, teaching public speaking at the University of Arkansas. And my husband's career was like going just like it was just becoming everything that he wanted it to be. He was getting calls by people that he was just like, oh my gosh, can you believe who just called? That kind of like excitement and just goodness happening. But towards the kind of end or the beginning of this, he started getting really hateful. And it was like, what is happening? Like, I'm good, the kids are good, your career's good. Like, why are you so angry? Started picking fights and stuff that was just like not normal for him to do, and just being really like just mean. And I remember telling my best friend, I was like in this, we was talking in this room, and I was like, I don't know if I can stay in this. Like this is like why is like it's just like he's picking on me almost. Like this really sucks. And about 2 weeks after that, he started getting really bad headaches. And we went to the emergency or the urgent care. They did a CT on his head and immediately realized that he had a mass on the front of his brain. And they sent us across the road to the ER, and they did a MRI, saw that it was cancerous, diagnosed him with glioblastoma, which is a terminal brain cancer, gave us a pamphlet that basically said you got you have 12 to 16 months to live, basically, regardless of anything you do. And you need to have surgery as soon as possible. But go home, call on Monday, and see if we can get you a surgery scheduled and
So this is all
alive.
just like in the ER same day that you're
This was
getting
all,
all of
yeah,
this information.
this was within 2 hours.
Wow.
It went from like he has a headache, and I was pretty scared. Like there was a moment of like, oh, he has COVID. And then I was like on my way home from getting COVID test, and I was like, this isn't COVID. Like, I just started crying because I was like, this is bad. Like, I don't know what's happening. So I got to get him and get him to the doctor because he was like, he didn't even take Tylenol. Like, that's how, like, against like taking pain medications or anything he
Mm,
was. Like, he was tough. And so, yeah, so there was like, this grief that was coming, like, my marriage is falling apart. That sucks. Like, I don't know what's happening.
hmm
And then there was a grief that came with the last year of his life. And so that consisted of a brain surgery. He slept for 2 weeks, completely changed his personality. He was not the same person anymore. And he became very violent and scary, which is pretty common with brain tumors that are located in the front right part of your brain. That's where your personality is. And originally the doctor was like, this is a great place to have a tumor because it can't kill you. And I was like, oh, okay. And I'm very optimistic. And they were like, he's like, it might change his personality. I'm like, hey, he might get nicer and happier and funnier. Like that's what I was thinking. I was like,
yeah.
this could be a lot of fun but it didn't. And I don't know that it ever changes for the positive, but
hmm
um so I was thinking, I was like, this is going to get better, maybe. But it actually, there is no good place to have a brain tumor.
Right.
And it did changed him dramatically. He was on um, seizure medication that, like, basically just like he was a zombie. And so basically, for a year, I watched him die. Just a slow deterioration of his brain. And about a month before he passed away, I checked him into hospice and sat with him there for a month while he was completely unconscious. They knocked him out because the pain was so bad. And so there was the grief of watching that happen. Like,
Mm.
I remember, and like, when I realized what I had Googled glioblastoma and I knew what it was going to look like. I remember telling my sister, like, I was like, I almost feel like, like when Mary knew Jesus was going to die and she was just going to have to stand back and watch.
Mm.
I felt that. Somebody you loved so deeply, they're going to die, they're going to suffer, and there's nothing you can do about it. And I was like, I just have a front row seat to his death. Like, this is like sick. This is terrible. So there was that grief, but then there was a month where I sat and watched, basically sat by him while he died. Um, and for the past year, I had just been his caretaker and done my best to take care of the kids. My parents were huge in helping with that. It would have been a terrible experience had my parents not been there. But when he was dying, I was like, okay, this is actually happening. This is done. Like, I had accepted the fact that he wasn't going to live anymore, in part because his brain was destroyed. And I was like, I don't want him to live anymore. Like, there is no
There's,
repairing the
yeah.
damage that's been done by the cancer, the surgery, and the tumor itself. And so I just sat there. I'm like, okay, this is going to be over soon. And what am I going to do with it? And I was like, there's got to be a blueprint for this. Like, people die all the time. Like, there's got to be some way that I can, like, get something and it'd be like, do this when your husband died. Well, that doesn't exist. And so, um,
Didn't exist at all. Like, couldn't find any support in that.
no, like, I was in
Well,
therapy. And so
yeah.
that was super helpful. And people would be like, you should go to a support group. And I'm like, when my grief is this heavy,
hmm
I can't go listen to other people. I'm zero concerned about anybody else at this point. I'm like, I got to keep my head above water, so that I can keep my kids above water.
hmm
All I care about. If you're not me or my kids, and I always talk about the triangle. There's me, kid number one, kid number two, and if you're not in this triangle, I'm not worried about you.
Yeah.
Like that's what I'm focusing on. But there was the grief that came after, of course, with realizing that, like, this life. So we had a construction company, we had a 120-acre cattle farm, we had two kids, we were homeschooling, like, and it's like, okay, like, it's game on now. What do you do? And so there was the grieving, then a life that I thought would be that was over.
hmm Yeah. And I just can't imagine, just from like his personality changing, which I'm sure was a result of the tumor, right? Whether or not you
Right.
guys knew that at the time. And so then you're going through the hardship in your marriage. Then all of a sudden he has a headache, and within a couple hours you find out it's not only a tumor, but it's cancerous. And not only is it cancerous, but there's not much they can do about it, and it's terminal. And then watching him deteriorate right before your eyes over an entire year. And also the thing that really stuck out to me was it sounds like you lost him well before you physically lost him, right? Like he wasn't um, the same person. So just like the layers to that, and it had to have been such a roller coaster. It's just like all these different levels to grief and different kinds of grief. Like he's still physically there, but you've lost who he is personality wise and his ability to function. And then even once then you lose him physically, and then you're looking at, like you said, the grief of what I imagined my life to be and the dreams that we had. And like you guys were kind of coming from like a mountaintop moment where you said
Mm-hmm.
everything was so great, and kind of just like a season of prosperity to just so quickly that being derailed. And
Right.
then not being able to find support in that, that specific support that you were looking for. And it just sounds like you were, I mean, helpless, really. Like you're helplessly watching this, right? Like you said, like I've got no control over this. I can't stop this from happening. I'm just watching this
Mm-hmm.
happen. Um, Kind of like Mary having to come to terms with what was going to happen with Jesus. Um, and so I guess that kind of leads to the question of, so the Bible tells us that our help comes from the Lord, right? So what was that experience like for you, feeling um, helpless and pretty alone? How did that affect your faith and your relationship with God at that time?
Yeah, I mean, it felt like it was the only thing I had. It was the only thing I knew. I had found so much comfort in knowing that, like, he may die, my kids could die, I could die, everybody could die, my house could burn down, but I still have God. Like, and it felt so comforting to me to be like, okay, like, I would wake up in the morning and just whisper Jesus, like, are you there? It was almost like, are you there? Type
Mm,
of type of whisper, like, because I need you to get out of for me to get out of bed. I need to know that you're with me regardless of what the outcome of this situation is. And I told myself early on, and I always talk about how I feel like as Christians, we give ourselves too many options. And so, like, giving yourself the option to like turn away from God is not an option. It wasn't an option for me. And so at these moments where I'm like, okay, like I'm aware that like a lot of people get really angry at God. Some
mm,
people leave the church because they can't stand being in that setting anymore. I was like, I don't want to lose my husband and my faith, both. And so
yeah.
one I could not control, the other one I could. And so I clung so tightly to the belief that like God was going to see me through this situation. And I felt his presence and I felt his love. And um, it was just this overwhelming comfort that I felt by just having him because nobody understood the depths of my pain. I'd be laying in my bathroom floor just like crying out to him because the things I had to say, nobody else could handle.
Hmm.
And that level of pain. But I think that I one of the most important things I did that I think is one of the best things I did that I would suggest everybody do that is a believer and going through something hard is making a commitment to God every day that regardless of anything that you're remaining faithful. And that was my words is like, God, no matter what, you take him, you leave him. I am not going anywhere because there were times when I knew exactly what I was saying when I started praying. I was like, I know what I'm praying for. I'm praying for healing, praying for my husband to be healed here on earth. I'm praying for just beautiful recovery, this testimony. Like this is going to be like the coolest story ever of how like people around the world rallied for my husband and he lived. He like survived this terminal cancer And I was like, I was already in my head. I was like, when he survives, I'm gonna come back to MD Anderson and I'm gonna stand on stage and I'm gonna tell people about these doctors and how supportive and wonderful this hospital is. And then I'm gonna bring him out on stage as like this testament to God and to these doctors. And like I had this all planned out. Like this was going to happen.
Wow.
People were fasting and praying, and I was like, there is no other way. Like, this is going to happen for us. And so you can imagine the devastation when I realized about 4 months before he died that he was not going to live. He was not going to be the one. There would not be this wonderful testimony of how God saved him coming from this. Um, I wondered why the kids were having to say goodbye to their dad after only 5 years of being with him, because we adopted from foster care. And so they had life before us, life with us, and then life without him. And I just like, that doesn't make any sense to me. But I think as Christians, where we really get in trouble, and you may disagree with this, and that's fine, but we question God. We feel like we have to know why. Why did you take my husband?
Hmm.
Why did you take my kid's dad? And I think that we have to stop right there and realize that it's
Hmm.
okay for us to wonder, but it like we have to understand that we serve a God who is all knowing and he loves us and we know his character and we know his character is good and we know that all things work for his good. So do I understand why you're taking my husband? No, but I understand God
Yeah.
enough to know that this is
Yeah.
not this is there's more to it. It's like I always think about when my daughter's like when she was little, we'd get in parking lots and she would want to run off. And I'm like, you're gonna get hit by a car. And so I'd grab her arm and jerk her back, and she'd be like, why are you doing that? And it's like, it doesn't matter why I'm doing that. The reason I'm doing it is because I don't want you to get hit by a car.
Yeah.
But like also like I don't have to explain myself when there's like in order for you to obey, you
Right.
know? You don't need an explanation. You need to submit and not run out in front of a car. You know what I'm saying? And it's almost like
Because at
that
the end
same
of the day,
way.
I know more than you do. Like,
I know more than you.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you're going to listen to me.
No, I totally agree with that. And I actually talk about that in my book and on my podcast quite a bit. Um, but it really is, like that, that's always kind of puzzled me as a Christian. Like even when I've had friends that aren't Christian or maybe questioning their faith because they can't understand God. And so even understanding God as a being, but like you're talking about questioning him, like to me, I'm like, are we not humble enough to know that we have a finite mind and a finite understanding? And like, who am I to think that I can understand? Like you said, we know God's character, but I'm not meant to understand. I don't have this divine knowledge and understanding that God has. So to even assume I could get answers to all of the questions or understand all of his things. And kind of like you're talking about, like, I knew I was going to have a testimony in this. There was going to be breakthrough. This was going to be a testament to God and his healing. And that's your plan. And then God's plan looks different. But again, in that, you know his character. So I think that's something we struggle with so much, but it's a great point because we really can't understand God's infinite knowledge. Like, that's why we're human beings, right? That's why we're
Yeah.
not divine. So, yeah, I totally agree 100% on that. And I loved what you said about even just having trust in him, even if you didn't know what to say or what to pray for, and making a conscious choice to just like, I'm going to stop right there. I'm not going to let my emotions take me on this roller coaster. I'm not going to allow myself to like spiral into all of these questions. I am going to choose to not go any further than like, yeah, I can kind of wonder why this is happening, but not question it to a point that, because that's where the enemy would love to have you, right? Where you're
Oh, for
just
sure.
spiraling and questioning. And I think it's really beautiful that um, I think in these hard times, it's really easy for people to turn away from faith and, like you said, leave the church. And you really did the opposite. And I want to read this verse. I had written this down, and I think this is the perfect time to throw this in there. So Psalm 34:18 says, "The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit." So really, this is a reminder that God is near us in our grief. It doesn't mean he's left you or abandoned you. Now, sometimes we might turn our back on God or draw farther away from God. I think what's really beautiful about your story is you used it to draw closer to him. Like he was the one thing you could trust and the one thing you could rely on. But God does draw closer to us when we draw near to him. And God really, I completely agree with what you said. He is not the cause of our pain. He's the hope in our
Yeah.
pain. And I truly like feel like my heart bleeds for people who don't have that or quite get it. Like God is the hope within our pain and within what we're going through. He doesn't cause these things to happen. He's the joy that we can have and the hope that we can have that we're going to come out on the other side of it. And there's going to be some other bigger picture that we can't possibly see while we're in it. Um, so I just love that you really clung on to your faith rather than turning from it. And I'm sure that doesn't mean that you didn't wrestle with it or it wasn't hard sometimes, but I think that that's really inspirational. And so I
Yeah.
hope our listeners really hear that and think about that because yeah, I'm just like that is what God is there for. He is there
Hmm.
to bring you hope and healing. He's not there to hurt you or abandon you, and he doesn't cause the bad things.
Right. Yeah, I think that if you're in a deep place of suffering and you're not connecting with God, you're missing out on one of the greatest opportunities for intimacy that you'll ever
Mm,
have. And so pulling away, like just don't let that be the answer to your problem. Like that's going to be a good idea. It's just not a good idea. Um, but also like I do want to say, because you're talking about going like that it wasn't just like, oh, I'm on my knees all day, every day, praying and seeking God. After he died, I couldn't pray. Like I didn't know what to say. And my attitude was kind of like, you're gonna do what you want to anyways. Why
mm,
do I need to say anything? Like, that's kind of what it is. But I was also like, hey, God, I'm here. Like, I'm here. I just want you to know I'm here. And I have nothing to say. It's not like I don't have anything to say to you. It wasn't like that. It's just
right.
like, I got nothing. Like, I got nothing to say. Like, thank you for my home. It was so strained and so
Yeah.
like I'd be like, I want to say thank you. And then I'm like, but my husband's gone. Like,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
don't feel very thankful right now. But just saying to him, I'm here. I'm not going anywhere, but I have nothing to say. Like, that was kind of how it went, and it took months before I could pray again and
Mm,
really be like, I think you could do something here. I feel like you could intervene in this situation. Like I'm back there again. But for a long time, I just like whatever comes,
yeah.
whatever. Like I don't. Somebody breaks into the house tonight, whatever. Like
Yeah.
that's kind of my thought. But there is that up and down and back and forth. But the point is that you don't leave and that you stay and God can handle your feelings and your thoughts and even your anger. Like he understands and he knows anger. So like it's okay, but it's like you can't get in an altercation with him and leave. You got to get in an altercation and stay. Like you can't like be the one that storms out the door. You got to sit down and just stay
Amen.
right there.
That's so good. In those moments you struggled, was there like a specific, I don't know, maybe scripture or worship song or something that helped you really stay grounded in that and draw near to him even when it was difficult too?
What's weird is that was kind of the point in my life where I turned to listening to like only Christian music. Um, and there's not one, I mean, the one that's coming to mind is He makes beauty from ashes.
Oh, I love that
Bum,
one.
bum, bum,
Yeah.
bum, like that one. That one's coming to my mind because I was at MD Anderson and like I said at the hospital like most of the day, but then I had to leave. They wouldn't let me stay the night. So I had to go to the hotel. I'd go get on the treadmill to try to like physically exhaust my body to the point like to equal out what my mind was
Hmm.
emotionally. I remember listening to that song on the treadmill and I was like, I don't know about that. Like, I don't know. I trust it, but like, I don't know like
Yeah,
how this is ever going to be okay.
yeah,
But I would wake up in the middle of the night with these songs playing in my head. Like I would wake up and it would be a lyric, it would be a line from these songs, just kind of like this reassurance that like, this is bad, but you're going to survive. You're going to be okay. Like you know, your husband is a Christian. You're going to see him again. Like, you know,
mm,
those comforting things that are like mildly comforting, but comforting
yeah.
at that.
Well, and it's like those promises. Like, so even if you can't see what the beauty from ashes is going to be, like you said, like you're like, I don't really know how anything good could ever come of this. However, like you just hold on to that. It's again, it's the hope, right?
Right.
Is really, I think, what it comes down to. And so just grabbing onto any of those little things that you can, knowing God, I know his character. He doesn't change. Like I can trust what he says and what the Bible says about him and who he is and what his promises are, even if in my little human brain that's very like hurting and broken and just attacked right now, it doesn't change who he is and those promises that he's made. Um, so yeah, that's really powerful. And I agree, like you can come to God with God can handle your feelings, like probably better than we can ourselves. And we're not going to offend him with that. I loved what you said earlier. You said something about the things that I needed to say I couldn't say to anyone
Hmm.
else. Like I couldn't
Hmm.
say those to anyone else, but you can say those to God. Like, and he will meet you there. And you're not going, you can be confused and you can be angry and you can be all of the things, and he'll meet you there. God doesn't turn his back on you. He's not going to leave you because you're hurting.
Right.
Before we wrap up today's episode, just a quick reminder, this was just part 1 of my powerful conversation with JoBeth. There's so much more coming in part 2, so make sure you tune in to the next episode where we go even deeper. And if JoBeth's story and wisdom spoke to your heart today, don't forget that she does offer grief coaching and walks with women through loss with faith and compassion. You can find all of her info and how to connect with her right in the show notes below. We'll see you in part 2, friend. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode of The Called and Courageous Christian Woman. I hope you felt poured into, encouraged, and empowered to keep moving courageously forward in your faith and calling. Be sure to stay connected with me on social media for more inspiration and updates. Any events, courses, or links mentioned in today's episode can be found on my social media accounts. You can find me on Instagram at writtenby_Britton and Facebook at Britton George. I'd love to stay connected to my listeners, so be sure to find me there. And if you've enjoyed today's episode, I'd be so grateful if you'd take a moment to leave a review. Your feedback helps others find this podcast and is the biggest way you can contribute to my mission of reaching women who are searching for a peace-filled, purpose-driven, and unapologetic life. I hope you found this episode to be a blessing for you. Until next time, God bless.